Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Showing Up to Life podcast, the last Showing Up to Life podcast in 2021. This is so exciting. Today's New Year's Eve, and I'm here to share some thoughts with you about mindfulness and self-compassion and compassion for others. And I'm going to talk about how this ties into New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, of course. And so first of all, I just wanted to welcome you all, and it's been, really. This podcast now has been going on for, let me think. It's 600 and like 620, but there was like maybe 50 episodes that I didn't number. So let's call it 650 just as a round number. They say that, not they say, but mathematically, if we take away the weekends of each year, then there are 261 days per year, I believe, working days, which means that this podcast has been going on for just under 3 years. So we've seen two different New Years as this podcast. And so, that's exciting to think about that we've really been going at it for this long. And so I just wanted to jump on and say thank you, really say thank you. First of all, you all know who you are, and I've gotten just the most wonderful, heartfelt messages this holiday season, and every one of them has just touched my heart, and it lives inside of my heart, and it gives me just the most joy and the most beautiful feeling. So I thank you, all of you. Thank you. But even those of you who have not reached out, I know that you're out there, and I know that you're watching and you're listening, and thank you too. Again, I always say that this podcast wouldn't be a podcast if it weren't for you, okay? So now, before I get into today's topic, though, a couple of really exciting things I want to tell you about. Now, as you know, if you've heard any of the recent episodes here, you know that we're in a little bit of a place of flux here. We're just like everything else in the universe around us, this podcast is changing, is evolving, is growing, is reforming itself, right? It's emerging, and it's self-organizing, and it's becoming something based on what it's already been. Okay. So that's the emergent quality here, which is to say that, as I record the episodes here and I get feedback from you, now I'm recording with that feedback in mind, and that makes it something new. Okay. And so that's the same way that our minds work 100% all day, every day. We're experiencing things, right? And we're now, that experience is shaping our mind and our nervous system, which then greets the next experience as a new self-organizing, emergent, complex system, right? It's fascinating stuff. And we'll get into that. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of that at some point in the new year. But I want to tell you that I've already scheduled my first, well, it's not quite scheduled, but it's on the intention has been set. The first interview on the Showing Up to Life podcast is going to happen in all likelihood next week. And the first one is going to be a doozy. It's going to be a little bit of a departure from our normal sort of, purview here on our Showing Up to Life podcast. I'm going to be interviewing someone who is a medium and a, kind of psychic healer and stuff. My wife has worked with her as a psychic, and, she says that it's like amazing. But the thing is, and the woman's name is Shannon. She's an old friend of mine. I don't really get into all that psychic stuff too much myself. My wife loves it. I'm like, I'd rather just see what happens. That's my thing. But what's really interesting is, as in the last few weeks, I've Shannon and I are connected on social media, Instagram, Facebook, maybe some others also. And so I see her content. She sees my content, of course. I don't know if she noticed mine or not. I noticed, in the last few weeks, I've noticed that she's talking so much about love. And she talks about love in a almost like a vibrational level, right? And whereas I talk about love on an emotional level, and really they're the same thing, right? The vibrations and the emotions, they're very, very similar to one another. So I thought it'd be really fantastic to have this brand new, really completely outside the box interview for the first interview that we're going to do. But I'm really going to try to do I think one interview a week is a little aggressive, so I'm going to not put a number on it, but I'm going to do as many interviews with as many really interesting people who are in my circle for you, because that's what I'm here to do, right? I'm here to help you to see new things and to think about things in new ways, and so I'm going to introduce you to some new people as well. All right, so stay tuned for that. And I'm really excited. Okay, but today let's talk about New Year's Eve, and what's the first thing that comes to mind when we think about New Year's Eve, right? Or maybe not the first thing, but certainly among the first things that come to mind is New Year's resolutions, right? It's the time where we have to, okay, this is where I'm going to do it. This is my opportunity. I'm going to create something new. I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to change something that needs to be changed. I'm going to improve something I feel needs to be improved, whatever that thing is, right? You're trying, most of the time what we do is we set New Year's resolutions that have to do with the, really, big stuff in our lives, like our finances, our health, our relationships, right? Our maybe cleanliness, other habits that we might feel are going to benefit us, right? Physically, emotionally, mentally, right? And so these are beautiful endeavors, right? And there's no reason not to engage in the effort of trying to change in a positive way, right? Trying to go from sickness to health, to go from, heaviness to lightness, to go from unhappiness to happiness, right? These are beautiful endeavors, and there's nothing that should stop you from doing that, okay? And the thing about, but here's the thing about New Year's Day, right? Or New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, that whole, moment in time that we think of when we think of these resolutions, right? So unlike something like the equinox, right, or the solstice, right? There's 4 times a year, 4 specific days. There's 2 equinoxes, 2 solstices. And on those 4 days, there is an astronomical thing that is happening. Right? There's a specific relationship between the Earth and the sun and other, planetary things that are going on. And this is significant. This is real. This is something that actually happens, right? In space and time, right? When we talk about January 1st, right? There's nothing like that, right? There's no astrological event or astronomical, I don't know which way you want to say, but there's no such, planetary, space-time event associated with January 1st that's anything meaningful. January 1st is literally just an arbitrary way or an arbitrary box on a calendar that we have devised to measure the passage of time, right? Which is really to say measure the change over the course of what we perceive as time, right? And so I say it's an arbitrary box on a calendar. The box within the calendar is not arbitrary. That's very unarbitrary. That's very specific, right? That's very definite, right? There's the first of the year, right? Just like there's the last of the year, right? There's nothing arbitrary about that. But when I say, in the context of the calendar, right? But what I mean by arbitrary is that astrologically speaking or astronomically speaking, there's no difference between January 1st and February 16th or June 5th or July 18th or any of these dates that you want to throw out. There's no, physical difference, right? And so this whole calendar and this whole sort of measurement that we've come up with, it's all a construct, right? It's all made up. And we could certainly divide time any way we wanted to, right? We could call a day, from sunrise to sunset, and another day sunset to sunrise. If we wanted to, we could have created that. And every day would be like 12 hours instead of 24, right? Or we could really be accurate to the fact that sunrise changes every day, right? But yet we've standardized things, and we do that basically just to communicate with each other. In fact, the first wristwatches were developed for railroad conductors, right? Because for the first time in the history of humanity, somebody in one place had to have the same time as somebody in another place because you had this train schedule. So people need to know, like, what time is the train coming through, right? I'm not going to stand here all day waiting for the train. If you can just tell me it's going to be at 3:00, well, then that's a communication that we have, right? So that's the whole thing about this whole time and everything, right? And so in one essence, it is very much a made up, unreal thing, right? Like like time or a calendar, right? Or the passage of time, right? It's made up, or the way that we measure it. The passage of change is not made up. We grow older, the leaves fall off the trees, the green shoots come up in spring, right? That's not arbitrary at all, right? That's physical world around us, right? But the way that we measure it is very much just constructed, right? And so what this means when we talk about resolutions, right? What this means is that at once the day it doesn't mean anything, right? But at the same time, it means a lot because we have constructed this calendar, and within the construct of this calendar, this day is day one, right? It's a brand new thing. So even though it is a constructed thing, there's also something very intuitive and very natural about seeing this as a big change, even though nothing's really changing, not physically in the world, right? And so I invite you to think about that for a moment, or a few moments even, and see that sort of non-duality, right? That it's neither one nor the other, and it's also both, and it's also neither, right? And that's the way, life is, right? It's very, very seldom that something is just this, right? And just like we described with January 1st, it is both an arbitrary thing and also a very not arbitrary thing, right? But it's both of them. One does not cancel the other out, right? The fact that it is the brand new page on a new calendar, that means something, but it also means nothing. Okay, so anyway, sit with that for a few minutes today, right? But the reason why I say this, right? The reason I bring your attention to this sort of non-duality of what we're talking about here, right? Which is life too, right? But the reason I bring that up is because, we have this sense when it comes to setting resolutions, we have this sense that, like, okay, so today's the day that I have to do the resolution, and I'm going to do the resolution, and it's either a success in that every single day I'll do the new thing and I'll never fail, or it's a failure and I won't do the thing every single day. But again, that's not how life works, right? And it's much easier to think of or much more appropriate to think of a resolution as an ongoing process, right? In a very similar way that we do our meditation, right? When we do meditation, right, we set the intention that for the next, X amount of time, I'm going to pay attention to something. Now, if you work with me, that something is almost always the breath, right? The sensation of the breath, right? So you're sensing your body doing the breathing, right? And you're sort of filling your awareness with that sensation, right? Now, it's never, ever, ever about saying, okay, I've set the intention, and now a successful meditation is when I just pay attention to that breath the whole time, and a failing meditation is when my mind wanders. If we thought of it that way, then everybody would be a failure. Every single person. And that's the point. There is no pass or fail, right? There's just returning. Right? When we're doing our meditation, our mind wanders. We don't get up and say, oh, that's it. I failed. That's it for that meditation. We'll come back tomorrow, maybe. No, what we do is we recognize that we've slipped from our intention, and then we honor the intention by bringing it back, by returning. And that's all that we have to do. And so it's really helpful to look at a New Year's resolution in a similar way. Right? So you can look at a resolution as, okay, I'm setting the intention to, eat more broccoli, right? And so you're setting that intention in a present moment, right? Now, in every present moment experience subsequent to that, you have the choice to eat more broccoli or to not eat more broccoli, right? It doesn't mean that you failed or succeeded in anything. It just is a question of, are you eating more broccoli in this present moment or are you not? And if we look at it as an unfolding, emergent, present moment experience, well, then your resolution is just an ongoing process, right? Because on January 3rd, April 14th, June 29th, and August 5th, right? These are all moments in which you can decide to stay true, to return to that intention, just like you do return to your breath in meditation. You can just return to the broccoli. And that's really all it is. So in that sense, the idea of fail and succeed is as much a false duality as the sense of this January 1st being this real thing or a fake thing, right? It's both and it's neither, right? And so this is the way the world works. This is the way this is the way life unfolds in the present moment. And it's up to us to show up for it, right? And so as you're devising whatever resolutions you're doing, and first of all, I want to first say, like, you don't need to do any resolutions, right? Because you are perfect just the way you are, right? Now that's where we get into authenticity, right? Like why am I doing the resolution? Right? Am I doing it because it feels right to me? Is it something that's coming from like down here in my body driving me to do this thing? Knowing that I'm getting a little older and I really should start paying attention to how much broccoli I eat every day, that kind of thing. It's not my personal story. I eat plenty of broccoli. Me and my son are broccoli kings around here. But that's the thing, right? So where's that decision coming from? Or is it coming from because you saw some ad on Facebook 3 months ago that said, cool people eat broccoli, right? So do I want to eat the broccoli because I want to be part of the cool people? Well, that's just a mental construct. And that's not real any more than January 1st is a real thing in the universe. It's not, right? And so that's coming from a place of inauthenticity, right? When you think of like, well, I just want to be one of the cool people, right? You're actually abandoning your authenticity and trying to become something else so that you're accepted by a tribe, right? That's the actual antithesis of authenticity. Antithesis. That just was fun to say. You should try it. Go ahead. Wasn't that fun? So the idea then is to come into alignment with our authenticity. Okay, and this is where it gets really cool, and again, very non-dualistic, right? We're coming into our authenticity as we're attempting to change to become more authentic. That's crazy, isn't it? I mean, that's beautiful, isn't it? Sorry, I don't like to use that word. Pardon me. So here's the thing. Tomorrow, New Year's Day, 1122 is the date tomorrow, if you do it in the slash kind of thing, right? In the American style. I guess in Europe it would be the same because they just put the month before the day where we put the day before the month. So it's going to be the same tomorrow. So for everyone, it's 1122, which is pretty awesome. And so tomorrow at 1122 at 11 a.m. I was thinking about doing 11:11 just to have the numerology thing go, but I didn't. It's okay. But at 11 o'clock Mountain Time, right, which would be 1 o'clock on the East Coast, 10 o'clock on the West Coast, and noon on the Central and the heartland of the U.S. And then, if I'm not mistaken, my folks in England are going to be about 6 p.m. and the folks who are in Switzerland, I believe it's going to be either 7 or 8 p.m. for you. You know who I'm talking to. You know who you are. I hope you can make it. I really do. But I want all of you to be there. Really, I do. And so I didn't even tell you what it is. So at 11 o'clock, I'm going to be doing a workshop, okay? And basically, we're going to be working with all of this that I'm talking about right here, right? I've got so many notes I've prepared for you. What we're going to do is we're going to start out with a beautiful meditation, right? We're going to, really sense into this idea of change, but at the same time, coming into ourselves in that process of change and finding, our authenticity, in the essence of who we are. So I'm going to guide you through a meditation that's going to help with all of that, right? And then after the meditation, maybe we'll take a little bit of break. Everybody can stretch out, go grab a glass of water and stuff, reconvene in maybe 5 minutes or so. And then we're going to do a little bit of a workshop, a little bit of a lecture workshop, talk about, basically go, very much deeper into everything that I just said here. And so that you all can create your resolutions as we're doing it. Right. So in the end of this workshop, my hope is that everybody comes away possibly with a new resolution or a more affirmed, older resolution. But most importantly, that you're going to come through it with the mindfulness and the self-compassion and the compassion for the resolution itself to be able to actually do it. Right? Because most of the time people, you set a resolution, you join a gym and you never go, right? Gyms in the US famously, they oversell their membership. If everybody showed up at the same time who had a gym membership, the gyms would go under because they'd have to return everybody's money because there'd be a line around the block, And so that's why they do it. They know that we're all again, in that head of oh my gosh, yeah, I'm going to join a gym, so I'll change my life. It's going to start tomorrow, And then 3 weeks from now, it's I'm going to get pizza instead, Because it wasn't coming from your authenticity, right? That's why most of them fail. That's one of the reasons. And so I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to help you. If you want to create a resolution, wonderful. And if you don't, that's wonderful too. But you can join us anyway and have part of the conversation. Now, apparently there's a lot of people interested in this. So I don't know how, interactive it's going to be. I mean, if we have 40 people in there, that can get very, very time consuming if everybody's going to be, kind of jumping in. So it might be more of a, sort of a lecture kind of thing. And then maybe a question and answer after that kind of thing. But we'll see. I've booked about 2 hours to do this with you. So, I don't know. It might last 45 minutes. It might last 3 hours. Who knows? But that's what we're going for. So, I've already sent out an invitation via email. Okay. I'm going to put a link in today's description to the page that tells you all about this and gives you the Zoom link. Okay. It's totally free. Okay. I decided last night that I am going to pass around the virtual hat of my Venmo link, to everyone, or PayPal if you prefer. And I only decided to do that last night. When I sent out the email yesterday, I kind of said, or on a Facebook post about it, I said if somebody insists on making a donation, I'll accept it, right? But I've changed my mind on that, and I've evolved my thought on that because last night it became very clear that there's a really, really devastating situation happening about 30 miles from my house right here. I mean, we're safe. We're very, very far away from it, but there's wildfires happening. Now, fortunately, I think there's snow happening right now in that area. We're due to get our first snowfall of the year, which is absolutely mind-boggling, right? That we've gone, almost to January without a snowfall. We had 0.3 inches at some point in December, whatever, So anyway, I am going to, so literally there's, so there's these huge wildfires. Normally when we think about wildfires, we think of in the mountains and stuff, not in California so much, but around here, it doesn't usually encroach upon, real populated areas. Nothing could be further from the truth in this situation, right? If you look at the picture online, it's literally blazing fires, but you see the grid of white lights of residential areas. It's as of 6 o'clock last night, already 500 people had been evacuated and their homes destroyed. I don't even know what that is now. I saw one just heartbreaking post that somebody who said that I'm away, out of town. Can somebody, here's my address. Can you please go to my house and try to get my dog and cat out? And so it's a really, really heavy situation. So I am going to pass around the hat, and anybody who wants to, and I'll even put it in the description today, and anybody who wants to donate, even like 50 cents, whatever I amass from your generosity is going to be just 100% of it. I will not keep a penny of that money. 100% of it is going to be just donated to one of the organizations who's providing relief to all these poor people who've lost everything. So anyway, I'm getting teary here. So that's one of the things I'm going to do. So I'll put that link in the description of this too, in case you want to donate and are not able to make it tomorrow. Okay, so anyway, pardon me. It's so weird when I start. Tearing up as I'm talking in this public way. It's cool. I mean, I'm comfortable with it. It's my authenticity, but it is weird. So anyway, thank you, everyone. Thank you for all of your support for this wonderful year that we've gone through. Thank you for not only your support in terms of just listening to my podcast, but you all know that I've shared a lot of really raw and open and difficult things with you all over the last few months here. And I just want to thank you all for holding that space for me to share these things, because it really is therapeutic for me. And my hope is that my story helps you somehow, but even if it doesn't, I just want to thank you so much for your support, for your empathy and your compassion. It really means so much to me. All right. So, hey, we'll see you next year. I used to be all about that joke. But anyway, I will see you at some point in 2022. Not sure if I'll get to do an episode tomorrow with this workshop going on. But if not, I'll try to be back Sunday or shortly thereafter. But you all know, and you've all given me the permission, it is what it is. And I'll see you when I see you, as we say in New York. All right, everybody. Wishing you well, wishing you the happiest of New Year's. Please stay safe, stay healthy, be happy, do what finds you joy tonight, okay? And tomorrow. All right, and hopefully that joy is partly spending the time with me, because I would love to see you there. All right, everybody. Well, bye-bye, and I'll see you next year. Take care. Happy New Year, everybody.